All right, back with another movie video. You know I love making these. This one I thought would be an interesting idea. It's going to be, I watched every Oscar-nominated movie of 2022, and I'm going to rank them in order from worst to best. And these are my opinions, and I also think, I have to say, I think it's a pretty good list. I don't really have an issue with any of these movies being on the list, but there has to be a worst, so let's jump into it with number 10. Number 10, I am going the Fabelmans. Again, I know there's people that really enjoy this movie. It's just one that didn't totally work for me. It's been nominated for 7 Oscars, including directing, music written, motion picture of the year, obviously, best picture. Michelle Williams got nominated, Judd Hirsch got nominated, and then the screenplay and production design nominated as well. Many feel as though Spielberg could win for directing, although it seems like the Daniels now are probably the front runners in that category, but still. This is kind of a bit of an aimless, plotless movie in a lot of ways. It doesn't really have, it's definitely not a standard 3-act structure or anything like that, which is fine, but I do think that for me personally, I do like a movie with a plot, and I do like that kind of nature of storytelling. But I think when you deviate with it, it really depends on, well, what's the point of deviating from it, and does that point work? The point of this is kind of more of just sort of a bit of a fun tone, and while it does go dark places, it tends to be lighthearted, but for me, that's just not really the kind of movies I tend to gravitate towards. It's just not necessarily my thing. I thought it was incredibly well made, and again, it earned its, I think I have no issue really with maybe a couple of acting performances I was surprised by getting nominated, but everything else, I have no real issue with it getting nominated. This is just clearly one of those movies that isn't for me necessarily, but I can see why people like it, but it's my number 10. Number 9, let's go a hot take. Whatever I put at the bottom is going to be a hot take. I am going Top Gun Maverick here as my number 9 movie. This is some people's number 1. And listen, if this is your kind of movie, I can see why you'd enjoy it, because I guess my thing with Top Gun Maverick is it was an entertaining final 45 minutes, in my opinion. I don't think this was a great full-length movie. That's just how I viewed it. I thought that quite frankly, thought it was kind of a mess through a lot of the middle part of it. I thought that, some people were upset it did not get nominated for cinematography. I personally was glad because I hated the cinematography in the bar and things of that nature. The plane stuff, amazing. Plane stuff, that's why you watch the movie. But I honestly think you could just show up for the last 45 minutes and watch it and get pretty much everything out of it that you got if you stayed for the whole thing. I thought the third act was incredible. And again, that's what you're trying to do. If you're going to be a movie that only has one good act, make it the last one, right? For sure. And again, the other nominees, music, best sound, best achievement in visual effects, best picture, and then best adapted screenplay. The screenplay, okay, fine. The other ones though, also editing, totally agree with all those other ones getting nominated. Like I said, I like it being nominated. It wasn't one of my top 10 movies of the year, but I'm totally cool with it getting nominated, especially when you think of the positive impact it had in getting people back into cinemas for a non-Marvel movie. Like that matters. That's important, and it does, I think, you can, it shouldn't get the nominee for that. I can kind of see why it might get a nominee for that. Again, there's things to like about it, but, I kind of touched on the cinematography and the bar stuff, and I'm not saying this is why I don't like the movie, because I do like the movie, and I'm not saying this is why it's so low either, but the way that it's kind of shot with this incredibly shallow depth of focus to where all you see is, Tom Cruise's face with everything else blurred out. To me, that's just not, you're losing so much. Sometimes it's important, and sometimes it's necessary, especially for like low budget filmmaking. It's all you can do, but, you're losing out on so much potential for other things, such as framing, and you have all these resources to use it. I think that making that stuff work and look better could have added something to the film, which I didn't really think was that interesting during the exposition scenes. Kind of felt like they were just there to move plot A to plot B, which, again, I wasn't so into for the first hour or so. But again, while I'm talking about all the negatives, and I do have to say, I guess one more thing about that is, I thought that when they did actually just, like the outside scene where Tom Cruise is jumping out the window, that was great, because they didn't use the shallow depth of focus. They actually let us see what was going on, and it looked awesome. They just rarely did that. But the last 45 minutes were great. I thought that was incredibly well done, and the decisions the characters made were what caused the plot to move forward, and they were all made sense, and you really did, to have the ending, which, I won't spoil, but like the ending was earned. All of it was great. All of it was incredibly well done. And while it's not my favorite movie on this list, it's probably one I'm going to revisit, at least the ending of, before I revisit some of these other ones. Number 8, I am going Elvis. Elvis is a weird one. It just is, right? I mean, this is one where, quite frankly, this is the one I was dreading watching the most. I thought that this was going to be a, not a bad movie, but I'm just like, okay, another one of these musical biopic things where it's probably going to be, I felt like I knew what I was getting into, but Baz Luhrmann had other ideas, the director of this movie, where it definitely was chaotic throughout. It was definitely fast-paced, and to be honest, the first 2 acts, I would say, worked for me. It didn't quite stick the landing the way Top Gun Maverick did, but I did enjoy a lot of what I saw out of this movie. I thought that the fast-paced nature and the sort of the quick editing, I know some people didn't love the editing. It was nominated for editing, along with costume design, production design, cinematography. Austin Butler was nominated, sound and makeup and hairstyling. I'm fine with all of those. It worked for me. Again, the Tom Hanks stuff was a meme, and a lot of people made fun of it. I kind of like the cartoony nature of it. I don't know, maybe I'm just a boomer and this stuff works on me, but I had a good time with it, and I was pleasantly surprised. Maybe it was the low expectations that caused it to work. I would say, again, without giving too much away, there were certain things I was interested in seeing how this movie would explore that it kind of just ignored, like interesting like social situations that I'm like, okay, this is, obviously we know Elvis kind of took from black culture in a lot of ways, and they present it as, he's not doing it nefariously, but just that's the kind of music he likes. But then it felt like, okay, there's this interesting setup, and it felt like they were going to talk about that more, and they really just went away with it, and it kind of was a bit of a disappointment in the final act. So while it did not stick the landing, and again, it's a bit of a longer movie. I don't know if it earned its runtime entirely, but it earned a chunk of the runtime. I mean, again, it's 2 hours and 39 minutes. If it shaved 15 minutes off, I think I would have been fine with it. I think my bigger critique with it was it didn't stick the landing, which is why it's lower on this list, but still one I enjoy. Speaking of long movies, next up is Avatar: The Way of Water. I guess it's not officially Avatar 2: The Way of Water, just Avatar: The Way of Water. Okay, fine, fair enough. That's what it's called. Only 4 nominees for this one: sound, visual effects, which it will certainly win, production design, and then motion picture, of course. Definitely one that it feels like if there was 8 nominees, this one might be off the list. It feels like it's one of the lower nominees, but it still makes my list at number 7 because I don't know. It's one of those things where you could argue parts of it are similar to the Fabelmans in a sense of story structure. This one has more of a, plot to it than the Fabelmans does, but there's still definitely parts where it's a bit aimless. There's still always something going on, but it can be a bit aimless at times, but I just enjoyed those moments more. I enjoyed that kind of, from about an hour to an hour and 30 in of them just learning how this water world works, essentially. Not the movie Waterworld, but them being in the water and kind of figuring out, oh, these are how these sea monster creatures work. Oh, this is fascinating. I just enjoyed that aspect of it, and it's the most visually stunning movie I've ever seen in my entire life. I thought that Avatar 1 was solid, but to me, this one blew that one out of the water, no pun intended, which, again, Avatar 1 considered one of the most visually stunning movies of all time. So I don't totally agree with the nature of, the story is bad, because for one thing, I don't know what people always mean by that, because there is a difference between plot and story, and I do think people mean story when they say it, but I'm not sure if everyone... I think story is the bigger issue than plot, but I'm not sure if everyone realizes that that's what they're actually saying. The characters are always a bit stiff in James Cameron movies in general. That's kind of maybe the one critique, is he doesn't totally nail characters, with some exceptions, some very notable exceptions, but still, that can be kind of when he's at his worst, that can be some of the issues. I thought that the emotional beats worked enough in this one to still carry it over. So, well, again, not a top 10 movie of the year for me. Certainly certainly a movie that I'm happy is on the list. I think that, I enjoyed it a lot. Number 6, give me Triangle of Sadness, which is a weird one. I've been talking about what else they're nominated for. Only 3 nominations, but they're the big 3. It's screenplay, direction, and motion picture. I mean, it doesn't get much better than having those be your 3 nominations if you can only have 3. This movie was really fun. I think some people kind of missed this movie's point in a way and kind of just assumed that it's just rich people bad, which it's not, but there's more to it than that. There's more nuance to it, and it goes into interesting areas. Some people didn't love the pacing. It is slowly paced. They definitely, when they have a beat, they don't just stay on it for your typical quick movie time. They take a little bit longer to let it happen. Again, this is not an American movie. American movies are especially very fast-paced, so I could see some Americans just being unused to it. But again, it's one of those, if the humor works for you, you're going to like it, and if the humor doesn't, then you're not. And if, throw-up humor isn't your thing, which it usually isn't mine, but I enjoyed it in this movie, but if it's never your thing, then you're not going to enjoy it. This one, I thought that it had some of the funnier sequence. It's the most I laughed in a movie theater all year long. It really is. This movie was absolutely hilarious, I thought. And again, it asks very interesting questions about humans in general and about power structures and hierarchies, while at the same time, and I don't think it was subtle in it. I think it pretty much clearly said what it was, although I think people kind of missed the point of the final act, the island sequence, and I won't give away much more than that. But maybe that's a video for another day. I just like this movie. I thought Woody Harrelson was hilarious in this one. He was easily my favorite part of this movie, which is saying something because it had a ton of great parts. Just a really funny movie. It's a bit long. It's a bit, loosely paced. I think that definitely if I think if an American made this movie, you certainly might be in a situation where this is a 2-hour long movie instead of 2.5 hours, and no scene is cut, just every scene is scrunched up. You could argue that that's the correct way to do it, but I don't know. I enjoyed the experience here, so that's kind of my thoughts there. Number 5, All Quiet on the Western Front. What a fun movie. Fun's the wrong word. Why did I say fun? What a good movie this was. Really enjoyed it a lot as well. It's number 5 on my list. Nominated for 9 Oscars. Production design, cinematography, screenplay, motion picture, of course, best achievement in visual effects, sound, music, makeup, and also best international feature film, as it is a German language movie. And again, it's a very well done movie. I've heard some people critique maybe some of the changes that they have made from the original and from the book, although, and then there's been some question about did they actually change it from the book, or it gets very into weeds here about certain aspects here and there, but just judging it on its work of art by itself, it's one of the rare actual anti-war movies, because again, there's a lot of questions about what is an anti-war movie, and something like Saving Private Ryan, well, yes, there's a lot of, it shows the horrors of war. At the same time, it kind of ends with, well, we should praise the heroes who served, and then that can kind of get more people to say, well, I want to be a hero, I'll go join the join the military. Famously, after Full Metal Jacket, people enlistment rates rose after that movie, despite it intending to be a anti-war movie. I don't think that would happen here. I think this movie was very well done and well written. Couple of issues with some of the writing I thought was a bit odd, decisions that they made and things of that nature, but it's definitely again, it still has a bit of a Netflix feel to me. I don't know how exactly to describe it other than just that. It feels a bit Netflixy. It does when you watch some of the cinematography and stuff, but I still thought it was very pretty. And for a Netflix movie, it looked very beautiful. So, definitely one to check out. Don't let these subtitles fool you. And I have to say, the note, like that, the 3-note thing, bone chilling, and that opening sequence. If you're not going to watch the movie, if you have Netflix, just check out the opening sequence. Like the first 15 minutes, it's sort of the introduction to the war machine was just such a well done sequence. So yeah, it belongs, definitely one where I can see why it's nominated, and it's going to win some of those awards. I feel pretty confident about that. Number 4 on my list is probably the one that people are talking the least about, and there's several reasons for it. It is Woman Talking. It has the least amount of nominations, only 2, least amount of nominations on the list, as just Best Picture and Adapted Screenplay. Those are the only 2. But I really thought this movie was great. I really did. And to me, I think there is a bit of a jump from 5 to 4. I think these top 4 movies are, I would say, the 4 best Oscar-nominated movies of the year. This is something that, why didn't it get the attention that it deserved? There's several reasons. For one, I'll just say personally, it's the last one on this list I watched. It was number 10, and part of it was, well, it just recently got put on streaming, and even on streaming, it's only streaming to buy right now. I don't even believe you can rent it currently as of recording this video. So that's part of it. That's an issue. That's part of why that happened. Also, another issue is, I think, just the movie called Woman Talking. I don't know. Is that something that a lot of people are rushing to see in theaters? Not necessarily. It's one personally, I said, I want to watch with subtitles. I'm going to wait until it comes out on digital, and now it's taking a while for it to come out in an easy access streaming area. So just that alone, and also, again, just the title Woman Talking in general, I don't know if that sells the movie maybe as good as it could, and so not as much people see it, and then people, don't necessarily, the word of mouth doesn't form that way. But enough about people seeing the movie. I saw the movie and loved it. I thought it was great. It definitely had a bit of a 12 Angry Men feel to it. At times, it was incredibly entertaining, and don't let the name fool you. Again, if you like dialogue-heavy movies, which I do, big fan of them, this is your movie. This is what you want to watch, I think. It's, again, there's a couple of nitpicks I could have throughout certain things. There was a couple of on-the-nose dialogue moments and things like that, but I don't know. This was just, a really well-done movie, and I thought that, kind of says something about life without being too obvious about what it's saying. You get it. You definitely get it, for sure, but it never feels like pandering or anything like that. Again, very good performances throughout, and some really tough stuff to watch in this one as well. That's another thing worth noting. It's about sexual assault, and what I don't show it, it's almost more horrifying that they don't. And just the way that it's done, really, it makes your skin crawl a little bit, and it's just a fantastic movie that I wish would get more attention, and I'm hoping that now that it becomes a little bit easier to access, it starts to get more attention, because again, it's one that I took a while to give a shot, and I'm really glad I did. So hopefully that sells you on it, and when it becomes easily available, you check it out as well. Number 3, Tar. How about Tar? Definitely a bit of a slower movie, probably the least, I think, I'm trying to figure out the best word to use, because entertaining is the wrong word, but maybe the least watchable movie that's high up on this list, as it definitely can be a bit slower at times and a bit more challenging at times. You have to pay a bit more attention to what's really going on, as it does not beat you over the head with what's going on, but it tells you what's going on in a really entertaining way. So, again, the 6 nominees, Cate Blanchett, who I think is going to win. Some people are saying Michelle Yeoh. I'd give it to Blanchett, even though, as you know, I have Everything Everywhere All at Once higher on this list, given that I haven't said it yet. Obviously nominated for Best Picture as well. Directing, screenplay, cinematography, and in film editing. It's interesting because it's in kind of all of the big categories, right? Leading role, directing, screenplay, cinematography, film editing, and then Best Picture. But I do wonder how much of it is it going to win anywhere? I wouldn't be stunned if it doesn't win anywhere. One thing I have to say, though, is you talk about this, the cinematography here. I love this kind of cinematography. You know me, if I critique the Top Gun Maverick sort of shallowed up the field, everything looks kind of, like the Taylor Swift music video, Anti-Hero. That's not my style necessarily. This is my style of the very realistic type stuff. I think there's been some critiques over, is it just kind of a rehash of, Whiplash mixed with The Piano Teacher? Listen, sign me up for a rehash of Whiplash meets The Piano Teacher. Those are 2 movies I love. Good artists take from what they've seen before, and I don't think so. I think it just goes in so many different ways that I don't think are there some similarities to those movies at parts? Yes. But I would not say that it's a rehash whatsoever. Fantastic movie. Slower one, not for everybody. This could easily be your least favorite on this list, and I totally get it. But one I appreciate it. I guess maybe the one critique is it's something you appreciate more than you enjoy, at least in my experience. Number 2, so these are, interestingly enough, only 3 of these movies made my top 10 list. Tar, Banshees, and then my number 1 on this list, which you can probably figure out what it is by now using process of elimination, but I'll still not say it, just to build whatever suspense we have left. This one was number 2 on my overall movies list, so it's going to be number 2 on my Best Picture nominee ranking. Just such a well-written script. That's really what it came down to. All the other stuff is great. Plenty of nominations in this one. You have Carrie Condon, Colin Farrell, and also Brandon Gleeson and Barry Keoghan were all nominated in the acting category. So four acting nominations there. Music also as well. Best Picture, as we talked about. Directing, film editing, all those important ones. But screenplay is where this movie makes its money. It is just so tightly written. Every word works. Every single line delivery works, which again goes back to the acting and directing and writing as well. Every single part of this feels like it's necessary to the movie. The themes that it's going after totally work, but it also works on a surface level. This is the definition of how you write a layered script, and it's definitely one that I will probably be going back and watching. I've already watched it multiple times. I'll be watching it multiple more and kind of studying, okay, why is this way? Oh, I see, the writing's this way, all that stuff, because I love to do that stuff. I mean, you've seen my football channel. You know I'm interested in how things work, and yeah, this one just definitely, if you haven't seen it yet, and again, you like dialogue-heavy movies, you like kind of dark comedies, this one's for you. But number one, it's number one. Best Picture, what I think will probably win it and might end up having kind of a sweep at the Oscars potentially, is Everything Everywhere All at Once. It almost feels like the only thing going against this movie is how much people like it. People might start to kind of turn on it a little bit. That feels like that happens sometimes. Like, okay, was it really 11 Oscar nominees good? I think yes. The nominees, again, you have 4 acting nominations here. Michelle Yeoh, Stephanie Hsu, Jamie Lee Curtis, and Kion Kwan, I believe is how you say his name. I'm trying. Part of it is as many of you know, I'm hard of hearing. It's not hard to hear what I'm saying. But cool, I love his performance so much. I feel bad that I butcher his name. But all 4 of them, I think the one I would maybe argue is like, does Jamie Lee Curtis need it necessarily? Feels like might be a bit of a people like Jamie Lee Curtis, but I thought she was good in it. Stephanie Hsu, a lot of people weren't sure if she was going to get it. I'm thrilled that she did. I thought that she kind of made this movie in a lot of ways. And, I mean, the people that made the movie, the Daniels, Dan Kwan and Dan Schneider, are, incredible in this one. I thought that their style, where you can tell, it feels like almost like an OK Go music video in a sense. Second music video reference I've made in this one, of just, it's all over the place, it's fast paced, and it's just fun. It's just a fun movie. It's entertaining. The humor totally works for me. That's kind of the one thing where I could see you not loving it if you don't love this kind of absurdist humor. But it's not just the, early 2000s LOL so random style of humor. There's an actual point to it. The other nominations are editing, costume design, directing, music, and also original song, and then original screenplay, and then of course Best Picture. I don't know. I think this could win a lot. It's favored to win a lot. It's favored to win Best Picture. I think it will. The Daniels are now favored to win Best Director. I don't know if they will, but I think it's very possible. And again, it's my favorite movie of the year. If you haven't checked it out yet, you should check it out, at least for nothing else, for the get the pop culture references and things that'll happen in the future, I think. But it's just, I don't know, it's just a very fun movie for me. But yeah, that's what I think. That's my list. What do you disagree with me on? What do you agree with me on? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from you. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.